Real Gary Tussey, where we talk about anything and everything that could ever amount to anything or everything to anybody and everybody who ever intends to amount to something. The Gary Tussey effect in the earth. I got a record 6.5 hours of sleep uninterrupted, and I'm bouncing off the walls this morning, baby. So easy to use, it barely felt like you were doing anything wrong. They all seemed like perfectly acceptable methods. The Gary Tussey effect in the earth. I got a record 6.5 hours of sleep uninterrupted, and I'm bouncing off the walls this morning, baby. The Gary Tussey effect in the earth. So easy to use, it barely felt like you were doing anything. They all seemed like perfectly acceptable methods. The Gary Tussey effect in the earth.
Genius loves company.
Hello, welcome to the Saturday morning edition of the greatest morning show ever produced in human history, thus also our greatest podcast ever produced in human history, the Real Gary Tussey Podcast. Don't forget, you can stay in touch with us over there online at tusseyonline.com. Again, that's tusseyonline.com. There's music on there, information about things we're doing, and that we're going to be filling that with content more and more every week. So thanks for becoming a part, and thank you, Facebook Live friends who are hanging in there with me this morning. Ted, Mike, Don, Jennifer, good to see you guys on here with me. Today we're talking about friends and friendship. Some people just constantly bragging on the fact, well, I don't know if it's they're pretty much boasting when they do this. They're boasting on the fact that they can count their true friends on one hand. Well, I'm going to challenge you today. If you can have that many friends, you can have this many friends. I'm holding up my second hand full of 5 digits for those of you on the Real Gary Tussey Podcast. We don't realize until somebody like myself begins to kind of shed light on it how important friends are and friendships are, and that's something that can be easily taken for granted. And then when you do that, you kind of lose touch. I mean, we need to be skillful with friendship. And hey, Ted shouting out to me. Good to see you hanging with us this morning. I'm loving the Saturday morning thing instead of the weekday 6 o'clock thing. So thanks for hanging with us this Saturday morning before you get your day and maybe your weekend started. But if we take friendship for granted, then it ends up as like sand in our hand. It just goes through our fingers and it's gone, and we wonder where it went. We can fix that. We can do better. We can have better. If friendships are better developed, listen, there would be less depression on the planet. There would be less suicides on the planet. There would be less dismay on the planet. And these are things that are so easy to take care of if we'll just shed light on that. You know, one time, this is a very important thing Jesus said one time to his disciples. He said, "From now on, I'm not calling you servant." Boy, that really speaks to me. I'm not calling you a servant anymore. I'm calling you friends. I absolutely love that. Good morning, buddy. Buddy Causey, good to see you from Salisbury, Maryland. Good to see you on with us. It's good to see our friends and buddies hanging with us this morning. So, what was I talking about? Friends, the quality of friendship and hanging in there with friends. And yeah, Jesus no longer entreated his disciples as servants. He made sure they understood, you're my friend. And friendship is a major ingredient in success in anyone and everyone's life. So we're going to talk about how to develop those, how to see if someone is going to someone is going to be worth the investment. Not everyone is worth the investment of your time for friendship, but some are, and we got to be able to see that. Relying on first impressions is a great place to start. Now think about this. You'll meet people for the first time and you'll think that they have a bad or a sour disposition, or on the other hand, you'll meet someone and you think they've got just a really, really sweet disposition. Both of those can be deceiving. Okay, so there's a greater way. There's actually a higher way to distinguish if someone's worth the investment of your time to be friends with. And there are more and more out there that you need to invest your time to be friends with. But just because someone has a sour or poor disposition at the time you meet them, although that may be a strike against them in many ways, it's not a true factor. What is a true factor is hang with that situation just a few minutes, and then you'll see that you'll have a gut instinct feeling, just a higher sense in you that I think I can develop a friendship with this person, and it worked the other way with, although they have a flowery, effervescent disposition, may not necessarily be the one that you want to invest in friendship with. So you got to invest in friendship. To win a friend, you've got to be a friend. And you've got to skillfully begin to know how and understand how to be a friend. Again, let me say it like this. You limit your success possibilities when you limit your friendship possibilities. And so why this is important to me to share with you today. Plus, I don't mind telling you, we pray on what we got to say to people when we're doing our media communications. And this is just dropped in my spirit that we have got to invest greater in people and in understanding that first of all, we got to stop bragging on the fact I've only got 5 friends. That don't boast in that. Make it a challenge for your life that I only have 5 friends, but by the end of the month I'm going to have 10. And with some skill and applying some skill, you'll be able to do that, and you'll be able to enjoy that and reap the benefits of it. Now, understand something. Heaven never sends a blessing your way without there being a man, woman, boy, or girl attached to it. What are you talking about? Simply put, God uses people. And when you isolate from people, you isolate the potential of blessing in your life. An interesting thing, and I'll say this as a side note right here, people are your greatest blessing, while at the same time they can be your greatest curse. So you've got to be able to learn how to discern who would be. Good morning, Greg. Good to see you on here. Ed, good to see you guys on here with me. So, speaking of friendship, Greg just from Louisiana just weighed in. And Greg was kind of the guy that when I first met him, I knew we could and would be friends. And Greg, although he's long far away and we don't talk that much, but we do talk often, and I feel like this man's a friend to me. And sometimes friendship just kind of falls right in place, and sometimes they've got to be developed. Well, let's skillfully learn how to develop those friends in our life, and who can be friends. You need to make a decision that I'm willing to meet new people and that I'm willing to extend myself to be a friend to them. You've got to do this. Increasing your circle increases your prospect for success and blessing. Boy, is that good. I think people would pay for this information. Woo, woo. You know what I'm talking about. This is valuable, good stuff, because more valuable than gold, man, is a brother or sister that you feel like they are truly a brother or sister, and vice versa. So keep in mind, he that's going to have friends is going to be friendly first himself. You've got to extend yourself as a friend. Differences can be as practical as similarities. Oftentimes we think we can only be friends with people because we got so much in common. We are so much alike. Roy Dale weighs in and says, when people first meet me, they think I'm crazy. Yeah, I remember that day, Roy.
Did you read the rest of it?
Yeah, so after they get to know me, they know I'm crazy. I love Roy. I'll never forget the place that I met Roy, and we had some great conversation right there at a certain location in Madison County. That was fun. You're listening to the greatest morning show ever produced in human history. I'm your host, Real Gary Tussey. Also, simulcasting? I'll just call it that for the lack of a better word. The Real Gary Tussey Podcast. Differences can be as practical as similarities. We think sometimes when it comes to winning friends and influencing people that it's got to be people who are just like me, who have, if I like jet skiing, they like jet skiing, we got to be friends. If I like horseback riding, they like horseback riding, we got to be friends. If I like baseball, they like baseball, we got to be friends. And while that is a real interesting concept, it can be very, very misleading. Sometimes the differences, I'm talking about even for those of us who are Christian, even those who have doctrinal differences, I can tell you right now, you got to stop cutting people off over a simple, minute doctrinal difference. Anything you're doing that makes your sphere smaller is limiting your success and your blessing. Let me say that again. Anything you do that constricts your sphere of influence and friendship, if it restricts it, it also restricts your ability for blessing and your ability for success. So we want to get over that. I am stressing the importance of having people in your life, and not only people who are like-minded with you, but there's a lot to be. As a matter of fact, let's say you're really, really, good morning, Terry. Let's say you're really, really grounded in your doctrinal belief in the Scripture. If you truly are, now I've got a little bit of a challenge here. If you truly are really rooted and grounded in your Christian conviction, then you should be able to talk with a Buddhist and be a friend to a Buddhist without it affecting your stand in the gospel or in the Scripture. You can befriend people who have nothing to do with anything in the Bible or in church, and you can extend yourself and be a friend. And in my mind, that's the quickest way to and the shortest way to begin to win the world. We talk about winning the world and evangelizing the world when we can't even keep more than 5 people as friends. We got to fix that. And I hope I'm helping you here today a little bit in doing that. You want to cut off friends that are not fruitful. You'll see this after a while. Here's the thing. You want to write this down. If you're taking notes, you should write this down. Good morning, Nick and Macon. Good morning, guys. You want to write this down for sure. You want to go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Now that bears repeating again, so I'm gonna do it again. You want to go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And we're coming up on the end of this podcast, so we're going to talk about that here a little bit. Then the next podcast, we're going to go dive into this a little bit about going where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. If a quote, friendship is one-sided, you'll know that after a while, and don't continue to embarrass yourself by investing your time in that. There will be someone whom you can invest your time in who absolutely is just glad you're doing it and absolutely glad that you've intersected into their circle. And then you got what the Scripture calls iron sharpening iron. The two of you just get sharper and sharper and sharper, and that's what friends do. Just get sharper and sharper and sharper in a relationship, and in being effectual and being effective in the things you apply yourself to. So we're going to talk about that more on the next podcast. You want to go to tusseyonline.com, tusseyonline.com. You can stay in touch with us there and see our webpage, and we're a lot of fruitful information there. So until next time, this is Real Gary Tussey, and look for you on the flip side.